So emotional eating isn't an issue. It's emotional overeating is the issue, and using food to cover up something else that you're unwilling to deal with. And then you disconnect from yourself, and then you find yourself in a position where you are where you feel like you're hopeless or powerless. That's the problem, right? Not emotional eating.
Hi, Alana.
Hi, Spencer. How are you? So nice to be here. I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I'm so appreciative, and I know this is going to be such a great episode. So welcome.
Thank you.
So let's talk about what we're talking about today. We're talking about our relationship with food. We're talking about emotional eating, and we have with us today Alana Kessler. I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction of you. Alana is a registered dietitian with a lot of other letters behind your name that I don't know what they mean, but I will let that be. She's the founder of Be Well by Alana Kessler. She's a graduate of NYU with a bachelor's and master's of science in clinical nutrition. Her work draws on her personal experience healing herself from emotional eating as a coping mechanism, disordered eating behaviors, and poor self-esteem, as well as her expertise and many years of experience working and applying the methods of Eastern and Western nutrition, functional medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, mindfulness, interpersonal psycho-spiritual healing, and life coaching modalities. That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot, but it's good. We need all of these things. Honestly, healing is hard work. It's not easy. And so I love that you touch on all of these things that are really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you read it, it's like, it feels like a resume, but when I think about it, it's just been like an evolution of intuition of what I needed at the time over the years. And, having that willingness and just, inner strength to pursue the modality that always seemed to show up in my face as I felt like I needed it, and being willing to explore and become proficient and really integrated into my life. And that really is a huge, that really is how I've created the systems and the healing modalities and methodology that I work with now with women.
Yeah. And look, lives are complex. People are complex. Our psyches, our subconscious, all of these things. I mean, it's very layered. So I really love when you have this multi-layered approach to healing and kind of ironing out some wrinkles that can really affect our daily life, I normally start off the podcast with some statistics. I really like to kind of give an idea of some numbers. And one thing I found really interesting, so I've been a writer, I've worked professionally as a copywriter, and I love research. I love numbers and statistics. I love math. And so the more I'm doing this podcast, the more I'm kind of starting to see connections between different things. When I was researching about emotional eating, it was quite fascinating to me because a lot of things in health can kind of be broken into demographics, right? So maybe you see something happen more with certain age groups or socioeconomic backgrounds or ethnicities and things like that. And emotional eating really hits all the demographics quite equally. It's really a problem that a lot of people across their entire lives, across all of this geography and demographics, they suffer from. And I found that quite fascinating, that this is a real, it kind of transcends all of these demographics. One thing I did read is that there's a study out of UNC, which is University of North Carolina, where I'm from, North Carolina, and it says that approximately 65% of American women aged 25 to 45 engage in disordered eating behaviors, which just shows how widespread this problem is. And I mean, it's not even, that's not even to me a very big number of age, an age gap, because I think that young girls, 10 years old, they can develop disordered eating habits. So this is not anything that's just for adult women. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is our relationship with food. We're going to explore things like food noise, hunger cues, GLP-1s. Alana and I are just going to kind of chat. And so I'm really excited to know from you about your experience with all of this, because we said in your bio that this came from personal experiences and this really did evolve for you. So I'd love to hear about how this started.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy to share. I feel so honored to be able to, share my story and hopefully have it resonate with women. Before I go into it, I just want to speak to one of the statistics that you
Sure.
that you said, because we bring up younger women, and younger women, younger girls, how
Sure.
girls prepubescent are starting to experience and just kind of get the download of emotional eating and just have that kind of insecure relationship with food, starts at a young age, and just kind of have that food noise that we'll get into.
Sure.
But actually, I have women in my mentorship that are like menopausal and post, like women that are 70,
Right.
60s and 70s that like for the first time feel safe, like acknowledging that they have an issue with this, and that it is an issue. It's not just normal to
Right.
feel this anxious about their body and food. Like that's just what it means to be a woman, is to feel anxious about eating in your body. Like that's just part of the brochure.
Sure.
They're finally like, wow, this isn't okay. Like I deserve support and help. And so 25 to 45, I think is true. However, like it's so interesting to me as I see the women that enroll in my program that they're menopausal and
Sure.
post as well.
Sure.
So I just wanted to share that because, it kind of leads into my story, where one of the big impetuses for my own healing, and I've always been this kind of person, and I think it's one of the testaments to why I've been able to heal, is that I've always been able to access my future self.
Sure.
It is something that I teach people, and I remember, I struggled with, I remember as like a 13, 14-year old, I was like, I didn't have any issues with eating. So I was like a late bloomer. I didn't get my period till I was like 15. I was like one of those girls that like, every day I'd look in the mirror and be like, do I have hips yet? Like, can I
Yeah.
fill out my skirt yet? It's like
Yeah.
all my friends, like I had like space in between my skirt, and like all my friends had these like, were able to wear all the clothes when, in the 90s when I was growing up. And you probably had Gap in North Carolina, and
Yeah.
there were
Yeah.
like
Of
these,
course. Sure.
so there were like these long jean skirts that everyone used to wear in the 90s that had like a slit up the front, and it's like
Yeah.
and literally you had to, the skirt was like straight, but it had room for hips, and the like smallest size didn't fit me, and I was like, all I wanted to do at 14 was like wear that skirt, and I
Yeah.
couldn't. And I ate, like, I just remember being free. Like I'd go to lunch and I'd eat whatever, and I didn't care. And then I turned 15, and I remember girls in school starting to like rip their cheese off their pizza and like put on like ketchup instead. And, girls just starting to, I don't know, subconscious messaging that you start to get. And I
Sure.
think at the same time, I started going through puberty. So like I was I was filling out. And also I grew up with, a very vanity focused home.
Yes.
So, my mom was always really small and like, very into her appearance, and, and her, just, and her, the culture of her family and the value system of her side of the family was very vanity and image and thin focused. And the messaging was always like, second on the lips, years on the hips, like all of these types of phrases and all these things. And of course my father is plastic surgeon, so inherently there was just this conscious and subconscious messaging about beauty and thinness.
Sure.
And I developed bulimia when I was 16. So there were other reasons, of anxiety. I'm a sensitive person, and it's something that I struggled with from the time I was 16 till the time I was about 31, and that's a long time. Um, and so that was like a junior in high school, senior in high school. At first, it felt really powerful, to have like a secret, and it felt really safe to to know that when I felt really out of control or like anxious and insecure in my life, I was able to kind of go back to my nice little, you know, like system that I would do to like reset my nervous system.
Yes.
And it worked in the beginning, right? Obviously, because like it's the same thing as like macro counting or like any kind of diet. Like it feels really grounding at first. And, you know, when I was 17, senior in high school, you know, at the beginning, I did lose a lot of weight, right? So it's like I was pretty thin. I was getting a lot of validation for it. However, I couldn't function well in the world because my brain was always really preoccupied with now like the eating and the food and like, oh my God, am I going to be able to like leave this situation to be able to like do my little addict behavior, that it now became an addict behavior. Like I couldn't function. So like, yes, I was thin, but like I also couldn't sustain relationships. Like I couldn't do any, like I couldn't function as a normal person in the world. Like, so I started feeling more and more disconnected. And this is when it started to sever. Like I feel like at 17, 18, I started to live a double life. Like it was very difficult. Like, you know, I would be one person in public, but very aloof, very like disengaged, disconnected, or performative, but like I only had a certain capacity. And I'd say that I would say that the bulimia was the worst in my late teens, early 20s, right? However, I got to college at like 18, 19, and I found yoga. So I went to NYU and I found yoga, albeit not from the best place. Like it was because Jennifer Aniston was doing yoga and she was like so skinny, and like I just wanted to get back to being skinny because I started gaining weight now from the bulimia, right? Like because
it completely destroys your metabolism and it completely throws off your fluid balance in your body, and
everything is bad. Metabolism gets totally screwed. Your hormones get screwed. Your estrogen and sex hormones get screwed, which impact your insulin, which impact your ability to metabolize sugars, and then you have extra sugars in the field, so fat cells grow. Like there really is a science to fat per se, and like like this just basically turns the light on to basically make everything go haywire. And I started feeling more out of control, and now I was more disconnected. I found yoga at 19. And like and something about it really worked for me. Like, and like we were saying in our pre-talk before we got on the call, it wasn't like a straight shot. Like I did yoga and I approached it really like hardcore, like people do with their like exercise and diet. And then I didn't do it for 6 months. And then I came back, but ultimately, it was this kind of really big struggle with this double life, this kind of engaging in healing modalities, but also kind of doing this, engaging in this addict behavior. Everything was really compartmentalized and segregated. And in the interim, I actually became a dietitian. I, talk about double life, became a dietitian. I had become more regular with yoga. So now yoga and meditation had become something that was very regular for me, and had changed from like an exercise punishing myself now to like a real place where I felt myself really evolving. And then I quit my job as a dietitian because the integrity of what I was going through, I felt like I couldn't really do it anymore. And the double life came to a head basically. Like when I was 25, like I was like, I'm done with this. I need to heal basically. And I need to like remove all the things that are keeping me in this kind of, almost like mask fake thing. And so I really kind of in like 2006, 2007, I just quit my job. I decided to like dive into yoga teacher training at that point. I've been practicing for 7 years, like felt like a really good grounding thing for me to do. And then I did that for about 4 months. And then one of my colleagues from the hospital from as another dietitian quit and wanted to come together to join together to make a private practice that combined nutrition, yoga, mindfulness, meditation together. And so long story short, that's kind of where this started for me. It was like 2007, 2008. That didn't work out because I said I didn't want to do nutrition counseling at the time. I was still struggling with my own stuff, but I wanted to do yoga and meditation, and I wanted to have a studio. She didn't want to have a studio. So we split. I opened my yoga studio that I owned for 10 years in Brooklyn. And in that time was when I truly healed. So I opened the yoga studio. I was 26. I was like 27. I got into yoga called Ashtanga yoga, which is a certain type of yoga that is very regular. You do it at a regular time every day. And that consistency and accountability of going to Ashtanga yoga every morning, that I felt that actually replaced my compulsive binging and purging behavior. Like wanting to show up to that practice every morning, feeling clear, feeling good in my digestion, feeling like, I genuinely was like, wow, this is something that I don't want to binge and purge at night because that'll make me dehydrated and feeling gross in the morning. And I don't want that. I want to show up great in the morning so I can walk out feeling as good as possible. And that was the first time that my motivation was like, I want to feel good. And then I started studying Ayurveda, and then I started, I did a functional medicine training. And honestly, my binging and purging just stopped. Where one day I woke up a year later and I was like, I haven't binged and purged in like a really long time. Like, I think it's like a year, Yeah. And my weight, like, I just, kind of like my weight was great, like
stabilizing.
I felt my body. I had lost weight, right? Like I focused on this thing, and then the next journey was, because I had dissociated myself from interpersonal relationships and being able to like really connect and be intimate with people, that was the next type of journey that I had to relearn. And that's why for me, it's really both, the healing journey. And that's really what, and finding my purpose and finding connection with people. I always say like connection really is the healing balm for emotional overeating and eating addiction. But you have to build a connection with yourself first, and then you can build a connection with other people. And I feel like it took me years to build that connection with myself with so many, and yoga and meditation and mindfulness was really a huge part of it. And it's not really the postures as much as it is the philosophy. I mean, it is the postures because it helps you get into your body, especially as somebody who disconnected from their body with so many abusive behaviors. So I actually, there were instances where like very difficult for me to have physical touch, like very difficult for me to use my body in any way. Even as a singer, I was telling you before, I lost my voice for a few years. I couldn't access like my voice because like I just wasn't connected to the breath anymore.
Right.
So, I had to connect to myself, and then had to learn the skills of connecting to other people as an adult. Because when you start this addictive behavior as a child, as a teenager, you're almost stunted in your development there. And you have to kind of relearn how to build connection so that you can feel that fulfillment, so that you don't use food as a coping mechanism for feeling unfulfilled or unseen or disconnected. And so it's all kind of a big cycle. I know that was long, but
no, it's perfect. I mean, I'm thinking of things as you're saying this, as I'm listening to you, and you're hitting on so many things I think are so important here in these stories of relationships with food. And, you've talked about disconnection, disassociation, you've talked about kind of intimacy, physical touch. And I think, there's also trust, there's perfectionism. I mean, there's so many layers to this, like we talked about, like it's just a multi-layered issue. And it's interesting how it all goes down to how we're loving ourselves, how we're treating ourselves. And, I love this journey that you've had of introducing yoga, because that to me seems like it really fostered your mind-body connection, which a lot of people have so disconnected. And that's just not with emotional eating and kind of, getting into this trance of you get stressed, you grab potato chips, and you don't even realize you ate the whole bag 10 minutes later. But this is in a lot of things. I mean, a lot of female health right now is because a lot of problems in female health is because we just don't have that connection to listen to our bodies. And when things are happening, our bodies are screaming at us that these things are going on, and we just don't hear it because we don't know the language of it. So I think all of this is really amazing to talk about and to say that, these connections really matter, and that also it's not easy work to build those bridges. Like, it takes time and it takes intention, right?
Yes, it takes time, it takes intention, it takes being able to be with really uncomfortable things. As I was healing the interpersonal piece, I started getting panic attacks because like all of the living in your body, like out of nowhere, it was just, our nervous systems, the body keeps a score. It's like,
Yes,
you have to really just like be able to be resilient, and you have to see all of the you have to see all the things, the context that's happening as feedback. And again, really connecting to that place of something that I would always say to myself. It's like, really, when I got to the point where I'm like, I deserve to feel good. And I deserve to feel good, and I deserve to feel good, and I'm responsible for knowing how to make myself feel good. That was the biggest thing. So like, I'm responsible for knowing how to make myself feel good. And then when I know how to make myself feel good, I'm responsible for choosing that over the other thing. And that's going to be, because the other thing always comes into the conversation. Like, even to this day, like, I'll be stressed or whatever. And like but the other thing always knocks on the door and is like, hey, huge bag of chips in the thing. I open the pantry. I'm like, I don't want this right now. Like, no, and then I have, where's my tool? Like, what are the other things I could do right now? Not that it's necessarily going to make me less anxious, but like the anxiety is going to pass, or like whatever's happening is going to pass regardless. The next moment, tomorrow is coming anyway, regardless of what happens, regardless of what action I do right now. So when tomorrow comes, do I want to be in a good place or do I want to be in a bad place?
Right. And it's setting yourself up for success in that way.
Yes.
Because I think it's so easy in the moment to say like, oh, I've had a bad day. I'm going to reach for a bottle of wine, or I'm going to, order the pizza and, get the desserts and things like that. But it's having the respect for your future self to say like, no, I'm going to make a better decision now that is going to, pay off for me tomorrow, or pay off for me in the future.
Yeah, and also I love that, and I also want to express to people, and I think this is so key, because as loving as that is, I do think there is a underlying binariness to it, like it's one or the other.
Yes.
Something that I teach is like I emotionally eat still. I just don't emotionally overeat, right? So I don't think there's, but you can't emotional eating isn't an issue. It's emotional overeating is the issue, and using food to cover up something else that you're unwilling to deal with, and then you disconnect from yourself, and then you find yourself in a position where you are where you feel like you're hopeless or powerless. That's the problem, right? Not emotional eating, right? Because I will sometimes open the pantry and say, I am going to have some of these chips actually. But the level, and I know I don't need to eat them.
Right.
However, I have boundaries, right? Like once you really heal, you could do that, right? Like it's not, I'm gonna open the chips and I'm gonna eat them all. I'm gonna let myself have everything. That's something. I could be like, I'm gonna have these chips. I'm gonna have 8 of them. I'm gonna measure them out, because you know what? I really do want this. Not because I think it's going to fix anything or whatever, but because it's fine.
Yes.
And I think that, so I don't think people can do that until they've healed the extremeness of the all or nothing mentality. So like as people evolve in working with me, that we get to this place. However, it's a very advanced place to get to, because it's very difficult until you reach a certain elevation of neutrality and being able to like deal with the other stuff, the non-food related stuff, to
Sure.
be able to get your brain to a place where you don't feel guilt having ate chips and you don't then
Yes.
make that go all the way to the other side. But that is truly freedom, right? Like I probably like I don't always make the right decision. I don't always make the healthiest decision. I just don't I just don't emotionally overeat or let myself go overboard or do it too many times in a row. Or like if a third day comes on that I'm doing it, I'll be like, okay, this is the third day that I'm kind of like snacking. All right, like this is no. I'm going to say no to myself today.
Right.
Because but it's like a macro situation. It's not this
Sure.
micro situation. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense, and I think
Yeah.
that I've seen a lot of nutritionists and a lot of kind of these ideas of don't deprive yourself of any food. If you want to eat a food, because when you deprive yourself, you create this kind of tension where you could potentially set yourself up to overeat. And I think that there are a lot of feelings of, well, I can't just eat everything I want. If you told me to eat a donut every time I wanted a donut, I would eat a donut all day long, right? So I think that there's this perception of understanding that there is freedom in being able to eat what you like to eat and creating these boundaries, but that it's a process to get there. It doesn't happen overnight, and it takes practice, right?
Yeah, it's so funny when it comes to food. It's like so black and white. It's like you wouldn't throw someone who's never gone underwater and held their breath for 3 minutes and say hold your breath for 3 minutes.
Right.
Because that's what intuitive eating is. Like that's what the
Yes.
intuitive eating
Thank
program
you.
is.
Intuitive eating. That's exactly what I was
Okay?
talking about. Thank
Like
you.
I hate intuitive eating. Sorry. I
Okay.
hate to use the word hate, but like
No.
it's I really kind of it's the worst because you can't teach someone intuitive eating if they're disconnected from their intuition. Like
Yes.
most people that go to intuitive eating, the intuitive eating movement as a recipe, pun intended, for like healing, is are totally disconnected from like their intuition, their hunger cues, their ability to have boundaries with themselves. What I just described, like that type of ability to be like, nope, and zoom out and be like, yeah, so the last couple of days I've had this, and be able to see their eating in context. Those
Yes.
people can't see their eating in context. So usually, right, they're hoping that by going through that program, they'll then be able to see their eating in context. It's totally wrong. You can't intuitively eat unless you already can see your eating behaviors in context. And so you have to teach people how to do that first. And that's very nuanced. And that's through application of certain practices and certain neurobiological trainings that I do in my program, right? Like that people don't even realize I'm doing just through the way that I've organized the program. I do that, right? And I see it working in real time. I don't say like, this is the module where we do it. The act of being in the program is going to do that for you. And then intuitive eating becomes a byproduct of like the practices and the exercises that you're doing, similar to weight loss being a byproduct, and my stopping binging and purging was a byproduct of the same type of dynamic that I was doing with yoga. I've recreated that in my programs so that it feels repetitive, it feels consistent, and it starts to rewire your brain. But it's not about food, just like it wasn't about, I mean, it's related to food, but it's teaching you
Yes.
food context,
Yes.
and that's the only way that you can intuitively eat. So these movements where, they tell you, oh yeah, you should just eat whatever you want. They don't, that's so unsafe. That's like asking somebody to like go down in the pool for 3 minutes and they haven't even held their breath for 10
Yeah.
seconds. Like you have to train them. You have to train somebody to be able to do what I said that I now do, where I can
Yes.
like choose the emotional eating and still not undermine any of my result, any not any of my results, any of my like, you know, intentions, accountability, desire to look how I want in my body. Um, that takes training. It's an elite level of being able to manage and deal and relate to yourself in food.
Yeah. And I think that, it's unsafe, but it's also detrimental to the mindset and the mental states of women. I mean, weight and food, this is a really heavy issue that women have dealt with for a very long time, of the perception of beauty and what we're supposed to look like, and a lot of things of comparisons. And so there are a lot of people, I think, that are really taking advantage of these very heavy pain points, where women think, okay, I can eat whatever I want and I can still lose weight, and I can be the weight that I want, or I can look the way that I want. And it really is, it's a trick in a way. It's very deceptive. And I think that that's very common with weight loss programs and with diets and food plans. And so I think it's really important what you were talking about, is that this is the food is kind of the supporting character, and the main actor, the main role is the mindset, right? And kind of getting that straight.
Yeah, I mean, it's the mindset, but it's also the emotional, energetic dynamics, right? So I think mindset can be seen as like mental, right? Like,
Right.
oh, if I have a certain affirmation, or if I have a certain perception, sometimes mindset and perception and perspective,
Sure.
people can like keep it limited to like, oh, let me change my mindset, let me change my perspective. But really, it's a full rewiring of your body. It's body-based behavior change, and
It's like a
like
reprogramming.
neurobiological behavior change. Yes, it's a
Yes.
pre-program. It's a hardware reset. It's not
Yes.
downloading new apps and like, trying to make it. It's not software downloads. It's like a hardware reset, rewire. And then you can download the apps, and it's fine because it's the hardware supports it. But if the hardware doesn't support it, and you try to download all these new apps like intuitive eating, macro counting, whatever, all these things, GLP-1, it's not going to make an iota of a difference. It'll give you like a bit of an alter, because that's what newness does. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not the underlying foundation, the hardware wire isn't going to change, which is what
Right.
people really want. They don't want to be focused. They don't want to, they don't want it to be something that they think about forever,
Right.
but they still want to look and feel good. Like everyone that I work with, and I've spoken about this a lot, I don't think there's an issue with women wanting to lose weight, and feel good in their bodies. And if feeling good in your body is weight loss, I don't think that's wrong. Like, I don't think there's something wrong with that. Like, I do. I think that, and I think that I've had many women in my program privately share with me that they sabotage themselves because they feel like if they admit that to themselves, they're kind of giving into diet culture,
Sure.
because they should just love themselves as they are, but they don't. And I think that we need to like make that be okay.
Yeah.
That if somebody wants to lose like, whatever amount of weight, because they'll feel more confident or better, not more worthy, but like, because they genuinely like will feel better in their clothes. They'll feel more like open. I don't think we should shame people for that and be like, why? You should feel good however you are. I mean, that's just reverse shaming.
Yeah. I just there's a woman I really like on Instagram, and I can't remember her account right now, but she did a post recently about shapewear, like Spanx and things like that, and then she was kind of shamed for saying that she wears shapewear. And she said, like, look, I'm happy with the way my body is, but I like wearing shapewear because my clothes lay the way that I want them to lay, and sometimes the jiggly bits that I have don't move around so much when I'm running or I'm walking, and it makes me feel comfortable. And that's what's important here. The narrative is individuals feeling comfortable in their body with what that means to them, not what's acceptable, and kind of this toxic positivity in a way of saying like, well, you can't say you want to lose weight. If you want to lose weight, I agree. I think that it really just depends on the individual.
Yeah. And if you want to lose weight, it also doesn't have to be this punishing thing. And it doesn't have to take over your whole life. I think the problem is marketing and culture has made us feel like if you want to lose weight, it needs to take up your whole life. It doesn't. It doesn't need to take up your whole life. And that's what I keep trying to tell people. It's fine if you want to lose weight. It doesn't mean you all of a sudden have to like, take a break from your real life and like focus on weight loss. Like you don't have to do that. You know, it can be integrated and it doesn't have to be the main event. Like you have to learn certain, you know, you have to train your nervous system and you have to train your behavior and you have to get comfortable with boundaries and understand some certain principles about food science, right? So you understand the way that food can help your metabolism, but all in service of you wanting to make good decisions, to like, you know, wanting to make, you know, good decisions for the most part. Because if it comes from the place of like, I want to make decisions to nourish my body in a way that's going to optimize my metabolism, and that's not to the exclusion of sweets and dessert. It just, I have to understand how I can contextually get it all in, and the only way I'm going to do that is through practice. Then the weight comes off. I mean, it's literally like, the problem is people have a hard time like with the neutrality and the lack of drama and the lack of like intensity in that process. And after a couple of weeks, they go back to like the macro counting and the like the drama on the diet, because like it's not happening fast enough, because we've trained ourselves to like, you know, we've trained ourselves for this kind of immediate gratification. I always need something dramatic. I always need a dopamine hit right away. I see results immediately, like fast, quick, you know, all these things. And that's the problem, is that there's little sabotaging happening, right? And also, if you want to lose weight, it's not just about eating. It's about how safe does your nervous system feel. If you're in a relationship that's, you know, if you're in a relationship or multiple relationships, or your day-to-day connections make you feel anxious, or you feel taken advantage of, or unseen, or unsupported, or unappreciated, your nervous system is going to hold on to that. I don't care what you eat, you're not going to lose weight.
Right.
You know, so a lot of people feel frustrated because they'll like do the thing for a little bit and they'll be like, oh, it's not working, I'm not losing weight, let me go back to the diet drama, like the quick fix, you know, extreme thing that promises fast results.
All the 10-day detoxes
like external validation. But they're not realizing that the reason why the weight loss is because there's certain buckets of your life that are in misalignment, usually energetic ones. And it gets harder as you get older because of perimenopause, because of the hormonal changes. So, you know, because of the just, you know, years of the patterning of the emotional body and the nervous system. So it just takes longer. Yeah. And, you know, if someone, I say to people, you struggled with emotional eating for 20 years, right? I struggled with this for 20 years. And then they're like, so like 3 months, I'm going to be good. I'm like, really? In 3 months, you'll have the tools. And if you're consistent, you will 100% see results. But are you gonna heal 20 years of, you know, multi-layered reasons as to why the behaviors and the you know, the cage and the weight gain that you're feeling that you're in right now? I mean, that's not a realistic situation. It takes 9 months to grow a baby that gets born and can't do anything. You know?
Yeah. And I like how you talk about kind of this self-sabotage, because I do think, and you talk about your environment, because, you know, emotional eating can be a byproduct of your environment, right? So you go to food to feel better because maybe you're in a marriage you're very unhappy, or maybe you're in a job that is really stressful and your nervous system is just consistently dysregulated, right? And so I think that anytime you take away something that you go to cope with, that you don't replace it with something else, the transition is going to be very rocky, right? So, I mean, like you look at Alcoholics Anonymous with AA, it's a huge support system for people who decide to stop drinking alcohol. They've removed that coping mechanism and they've replaced it with the AA groups, right? And the meetings and things. And so that transition works really well because it's a support. So I think that, you know, when you think about, for me at least, thinking about emotional eating, sometimes your environment needs to change as well, right? And maybe sometimes you have to distance yourself from people that you realize are maybe toxic for you or very dysregulating. And this can be a lot of changes. And I think that it's kind of understanding that it's maybe not, well, it's like what you're saying. It's not just a relationship with you and food. It's all these other things that are kind of, like the planets. They're all kind of circulating around you, and they all have to be addressed in a way, right?
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, something that I think is really important to acknowledge is you don't always have to replace. So
Okay.
because the women that I work with now, like some of them, it's not a reality for them, right? They know their relationship isn't great. There's something in their life that's toxic or whatever. But you know what? When we're in our teens and 20s, we can just be like, I'm going to quit. Bye.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's not a reality to do that.
Right.
So you have to grow the capacity. You have to grow the container. So when I started studying Buddhism, one of the analogies that I continue to, there are a couple that I sprinkle in a lot, but this one is so important. So if you have a cup of water and you put a blue dot of dye in it, the whole cup of water is going to get blue. But if you take now an entire like tub of water and you put the same blue dot in it, you're not going to see the blue.
Right.
But it's because you expanded the water. And that's what people have to do to heal.
Right.
And that is what they have to do to heal. It's not always about replacing.
Yeah.
It is about expanding your so if you know that you're not feeling connected in your relationship, you need to figure out what you need to do some deep dives into yourself, and I support women in that. And then you have to go out in the world and push that cup into a container, into a
Right.
tub. And you have to go and do it. And that's difficult because now we're facing other stuff that we haven't dealt with in a while, right? Like rejection or like interpersonal dynamics. And we realize what this eating relationship and about weight and food has been protecting us from. So we hate it, but it's been a protector. And it's courageous. That's why I say this is a courageous journey. And, it's really, it's about, it's so many factors, and so many things are going to start coming up once you start healing, right? It's not just about, going through the, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, healed, check, let's graduate. It's like the healing process evolves and it continues on. And as you become more healed and more raw and more you're going to need more support. Right. It's like the athletes at the highest level have like 9 coaches.
Yeah.
For every little, and the athletes that are not at the highest level have 1, maybe.
Yeah.
They're often the ones that are like, I don't need a coach. Right. I'm just going to go. But the elite ones, the ones who take themselves, who are like, they have like 9, because they realize how many different, because the second that something gets off, they realize that it's all an ecosystem. It's not compartmentalized.
Yes. And I love how you talk about how it's a journey. You talk about how you study Buddhism, and I've also studied Buddhism as well, and I love it. I normally read some kind of Buddhist something before I go to bed at night. I have kind of a stack next to my bed. And one of my most favorite things I've read is a book where they say that the purpose is to continue. It's not to set goals, that you reach a goal and then it all ends. It's that you just keep going. It's just like one foot in front of the other, and that's just life. It doesn't mean that it has to be boring or that it has to be anything. It's just, you just have to keep continuing on. And I think that's very important with weight, because I think that, there are these ideal numbers and goals and things like that. But I do see my relationship with food as a journey, and it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, it's never going to be perfect, but it also it doesn't have to be.
Yes.
It's not a purpose of life.
No.
It's just a feature and a function, and something that we do need to understand and have accountability with, and take responsibility for, so that we can feel good, because it does directly impact, food does directly impact our science and our biology. I mean, that's just a reality. So, of course, but it's an evolving thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about kind of this phrase that's been trending a lot, and it's food noise. And I heard food noise when I saw a blip of an interview that Oprah Winfrey did. and this was on her Oprah podcast. And she was talking about the fact that she has been taking a GLP-1. She had kind of denied it, and now she's gone out and said, yes, that she has been taking it. And I want to read what she said here. She said, one of the things that I realized the first time I took a GLP-1 was that all these years I thought that thin people had more willpower. They ate better foods. They were able to stick to it longer. I realized the very first time when I took the medicine that they're not even thinking about food. They're eating when they're hungry and they're stopping when they're full. She also deduced that thinner people do not have the same intrinsic thoughts about food, which is something she calls food noise. I would love to know your thoughts about what she talked about this, because I think that there's a few things that she's done here. One, she's kind of really like created this trending thing of food noise. And two, she's kind of grouping thin people and overweight people in kind of a very generalized way of saying that thin people don't struggle with how much food they eat or with hunger, things like this. So I'd love to kind of talk about what you think food noise is and your thoughts about this statement.
Yeah. So I think food noise inherently is negative. Like, I think it's like, it has a negative connotation. Anytime we call something noisy, it's like negative.
Yeah.
But first of all, I think she's wrong. I'm a thin person and I think about food. I think about what I'm going to eat later. I think about how my day is going to be. I think about like how I'm going to eat that day, because like, what if I'm going out to dinner later? And that's something I teach people. Like, I think that's good. Like, I think that you should, in what other areas of our lives do we not prepare?
Mm-hmm.
So like, are you saying that, so thin people don't just not prepare?
Right.
So I see what she's calling food noise, which is I'm guessing that food noise is the consistent thoughts about food. However, what she's missing is the reason why it's noisy is because you have a judgment about it and an emotion that's connected to it.
Right. Yeah.
That's the noisy part, not the thinking about the food part. The thinking about what you're going to eat part, if you want to like maintain a weight and a body image that you feel good in, of course there's obsessive, of course this is a very middle of the road. I'm saying like,
sure.
And somebody can be very obsessive about it and some people doesn't. I'm not condoning obsession. And at a certain point, you have to know within yourself, like, I think this might be an obsession, right? So it's like, this isn't a black and white cut and dry thing, but thinking about food and thinking about like what you're going to eat later, getting to a point in my meal where I'm like, I think I'm done, but then maybe like eating more and then feeling overstuffed. Like I think about that stuff, but I just don't, that happens sometimes and I recognize it.
Right.
And then the next day I adjust maybe my eating routine to accommodate the fact that I'm still full from yesterday. Right. It's like, it's not, but I do think about it. Right. Like I do think about it and I don't think there's a problem with that. So food noise, I think the idea that when you're thin, you just never think about food and it's just kind of this thing that you're just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just eating now. And it's this perfect thing, I think is really, I don't think it's beneficial for people to have this idea that thin people just have this setting where they just never think about food.
Right. And I also think it's always kind of dangerous to assume what people are thinking inside their heads. I mean, you can look at somebody, we talked about the bulimia earlier and how it can really throw off of your body. I mean, you can have a really severe eating disorder and have a normal or overweight body, but still be having a real problem with food addiction in your head, or you can have issues with anorexia and not be very, very thin. I mean, it's such a range,
Yep.
And so you really can't pinpoint when somebody is going through looking at them externally. It just they don't add up.
I also feel like, is she saying that that's how she is now because she's thin? Like the medication does that. Like the whole point of GLP-1 is that it cuts you off from like your, from that consistent compulsive what's the word I'm thinking about? Like running narrative in your head about food all the time, just like it takes over your brain. Like that's what one of the functions of GLP-1 is.
Right, right. And I think that's what she's referring to as food noise, is that she just has this continuous narrative, I would say, like you said, of thinking of food and then having to fight against the willpower to not eat it because she's thinking about it all the time. That's kind of what I'm deducing of it, but I think it's been very generalized.
But that's also because I think that her relationship with eating certain foods is bad. It isn't healthy.
Yes. Yes.
What I'm hearing is an inherent like binary thinking about food. She still has an all or nothing bad good relation, like mindset and narrative about certain foods. When you heal that narrative, the food noise goes away. You just see all food as neutral food that you choose from a place of integrity, intention, and within the context of your life, essentially.
Right. So you talked about how the GLP-1s, they do target this area of kind of this obsessive, rumination about food. What are your thoughts of the GLP-1s as a registered dietitian, and kind of with your experience, what do you think about this new wave of medication?
So I actually think that they're fine. Like I think GLP-1 is good for a certain population of people. I think you have to be morbidly obese. You have to have certain comorbidities, just like any other medication. It's like I'm not anti-medication. I'm a Western Eastern blend person. I see the benefit of GLP-1 for the people it's supposed to benefit.
Right.
Not, women who want to go from a size 4 to a size 00. Like I just don't, someone like Oprah, I think actually would probably have been a candidate. The problem with that is that she's a food addict. GLP-1s don't heal the psychological compulsive addiction. In fact, it masks it. And so you still have it in there, which I think is why she's still obsessed with it. The food noise thing in general is like, why is she still thinking about this and trying to do it? Like, go live your life, be thin, right? Like, isn't that what you wanted? Like, go be thin, live your life, like talk about something else.
Yeah.
But she's not but she's not because inherently she's still addicted to the identity of the food stuff.
Right. And like you say, I think there's also an addiction to the drama a bit of kind of, once you solve problems, sometimes you kind of miss that there was a problem that you solved, right? And so it's kind of this self-sabotage of creating more problems because you're used to kind of the drama of the problem.
And that's what GLP-1s do. They actually like mask, they stop you from doing the real healing, which is healing the self-sabotage, healing that, intense energy of drama, of like the need to solve, resolve, like all that stuff. It just takes that away instead of healing it.
Yeah.
And you feel less, which is a problem.
Right.
Because when you haven't trained your nervous system to be to be in neutrality and find intense pleasure in neutrality, because that's a training.
Yes.
When you're in neutral, you're gonna feel like you're numb. And so you have to get to the place where neutrality becomes an intensely pleasurable experience before you can do something where you take away the drama.
Right. Yeah.
That's why
there's a lot of the highs and the lows. They do a lot of things with dopamine in your brain and things like that. So I mean, it's very easy to just get addicted to the drama of the ups and downs. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why that's why having a community support is so important, and having a place to express the ups and downs is really important, and actually not sublimating that experience with a GLP-1, in my opinion, if you know personally that your real problem is food addiction, emotional overeating, binging, GLP-1's not going to heal that for you. You might be able to lie to yourself and be like, well, I'm obese, I could use a GLP-1 for this reason, but really you're using it for to heal you from the binging and the food addiction and to be skinny. If you're lying to yourself, like, you're setting yourself up to fail, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, look, in my program, I have the first 30 days are the withdrawal phase, where I actually don't give them any really new strategies about eating.
Right.
I give them a lot.
I'm going to cut you off for just 1 second because I want to talk about your program, and we're getting to the end of our episode, which has gone by so fast. And I want to mention this is our closing segment. It's called the Pluck This segment. It's where we offer tangible takeaways to our audience, and you have an amazing takeaway for the audience. It is your sober eating mentorship. It is at such an affordable price. It is an incredible program offered to help people with emotional eating, and you're giving it to people that can incorporate it into their lives. It's a really great affordable program, and I'd love for you to talk about it, and I'd love for you to explain. We've talked about the community part, which I'd love for you to continue, but I'd also like for you to talk about the name. It's Sober Eating Mentorship, and I'd love to talk about kind of this idea of sober eating. I think that's important to kind of explain what you mean by that.
Yeah. So sober eating to me is, getting to a place with food that feels sober, which to me feels neutral, right? To me, sobriety is devoid of highs and lows, your traditional highs and lows, and it's neutral. However, within that neutrality, you can feel deep fulfillment, happiness, and joy because of the lack of highs and lows. Okay. And so you have to train your nervous system not to need intense drama and like all that stuff and highs and lows and quick fix and dopamine hits constantly, because then what'll happen is your body will naturally start to see your life as an opportunity to feel dopamine hits, right? And and it'll come from a place that will nurture you and be generative rather than depleting and sending you into a cycle. So, and the reason why I call it, I use the word sober on purpose, because getting sober from eating food is very different than getting sober from a narcotic or alcohol, right? You can abstain from alcohol and a narcotic, and you cannot abstain from food. So you have to, sobriety with eating and food, and really the behaviors with eating and food. And that's something that I really try to impart on people, is that it's not really about food. It's about your eating behaviors and how you relate, and the pre-programmed narratives that you have, and judgments and fears and attachments that you have to the food. It's not actually about the food. And so I teach people through, my sober eating method and a 3-phase system, in my sober eating mentorship, to reprogram themselves, to get sober with their eating behaviors, so that food becomes simple and easy and fun and joyful and not obsessive and doesn't take over your whole life, and doesn't have to be your purpose. And weight loss actually is a natural byproduct of that, which has happened to every single one of my clients that have been consistent and implemented the program. And as we talked about before, neutrality can be very hard for people, and so they go back to old ways, and it becomes this cycle. So the initial program is 90 days, because in those 90 days you can cycle through all the phases. However, lots of people stay in the community and in the mentorship longer, because as we said before, life isn't linear. It's circular, and, it's not going to be just something that you graduate from phase 1 and into phase 2. Like, everyone's life context, brings, impacts them in a certain way. And sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes you need more support in a certain area. And I think part of what people need to heal is to get out of that mindset that something is going to take like a certain amount of time and they're going to be done.
Right.
And to really accept a journey that I'm offering and, you know, giving you the opportunity to join, which is something that, and to say to yourself, yes, I deserve long-term support in this. You know, I understand that there's going to be trial and error. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be success and there's going to be setbacks. And I'm not just looking for someone to promise me that in 90 days I'm going to be healed.
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah,
in 90 days,
sorry.
I was going to say, like, in 90 days, somebody can have the methods, the tools, they can have tried stuff. They can get it on an information and mindset level. And that's what we were talking about before. They could get it. They could understand. But understanding and it integrating and it being embodied takes a while.
Yes.
It could take time. You know, I've seen people embody it depending on where you are in your journey. Definitely, like, quicker than others. But the expectation that you can embody something, which is what we need here for change, is, you know, you got to give yourself that time.
Right. And everybody's timeline and journey is different. You know, some people it's a little bit faster. Maybe other people, like you said, it's harder when you are in perimenopause and menopause and the hormones play a really big factor. I also think that kind of the definition of what healing looks like for that person, right? Because I think that especially with weight, it's like we think about this number, we think about, you know, I want to fit into these clothes or something like that, but maybe that's not necessarily healing. Maybe that's not, you know, I mean, I think it's healing the relationship with your food is the goal here. But I also think that, you know, females have much higher incidence of autoimmune disease than males. We have, you know, higher incidence of migraines, higher incidence of depression and things like that. And so it's also, how are you feeling in your body, right? It's not just the exterior of what your body looks like, but how are you sleeping? You know, what's your energy level like and things like that. And this all takes time, and food plays a big role in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all very holistic. It's all a big ecosystem. Yeah, it's, you know, it's just interesting because I feel like I think about this all the time. People join gyms, right? They join gyms with a, you know, with the intention of being healthier and like whatever it is. And they get a gym membership and, you know, it's what, like, you know, $100 and something a month. And, you know, they're so willing to like recognize that they just continue on and go and keep going. But yet when it comes to women's emotional selves, they're unwilling to invest sometimes in that same level or that same type of consistent support that's just their baseline. And just realize that it's like, because a lot of people that have gym memberships, they don't go every day. Like maybe you don't go for a month, right? Like, but you come back, but you keep it there because it's like, you know that it's there and you know that it's like when you plug into it, it's something that you're not the outlet, you're the plug, right? So you plug into it and it's your outlet. Right. So that's what I want the mentorship to be for women. It's an outlet, right? That you plug in. It's at a very affordable price. It's not something and it is the solution because you continue to have that support and the methodology, but it's not something it's not a course that you just finish and, you know, you're there. The way that I built this program is sort of like that, where it's, you know, you join, you definitely learn a new way of being. You reprogram your nervous system, you reprogram your relationship with food, and life could happen and you could have a setback, but you come back to it, right? You have the support of women, and it's something that you stay in because you deserve it. You deserve support, you know?
Yeah. No, I saw something at the beginning of the year that said that nobody makes more money than a gym owner in January because everybody floods to get gym memberships and things like that. And it's like a support system that you kind of, even if you don't go, you know that it's there, you know? And I love that you're teaching skills that can be that support system for women, that even if, you know, life gets in the way and maybe they're not consistently doing things the way that maybe they want to, they have these skills to be able to go back to it and not slide down the mountain, right?
Exactly. Like I want to read something before we go that I just got today from one of the women in the mentorship. Actually, she just posted this in our group.
Perfect.
I'm not going to say her name, but she said, "Hey, everyone. Sorry I've been MIA from the group for a while. In full transparency, I went back to traditional dieting, calorie point counting for a bit because I was frustrated with the weight loss journey. Spoiler alert, it didn't work for me. It never really does. I also went to some really tough workout classes that also felt horrible. I guess I had to go back one last time to test out those things and realize yet again, they don't work for me." Right?
Yeah.
And so I wrote back to her and I said, "Proud of you. Balance isn't something we chase. It's something we keep coming back to again and again. And once the seesaw of coming back to balance becomes less extreme because we've stopped engaging in dramatic extreme dynamics, the weight will release. You have the tools, so be consistent and trust them so you can become comfortable with neutrality. That's where the freedom is, you know." And she wrote back and said, "Thank you. It feels good to be back doing what I know is right."
Yeah. And how amazing for her to have the community and the space to be able to say that without judgment, without comments, without something that's going to make her feel worse, but that's going to support her. So I love that you have that space for these women.
And that is the value. That is the real, like, that is the, yes, the methods I teach and all that is such a value, but that is a value because that's a reality of what happens in the journey, like in the process, right? Like, you know, and now you have this, you've said it out loud. Like if people didn't have that community, maybe they wouldn't have even realized it, or they did, but they would have shamed themselves for it. And, you know, this part of it is how you reprogram your nervous system and your worthiness to be like, yes, I'm and it changes.
Yeah.
You know, it changes.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, look, I say in like all of my promotion and my marketing, like I really believe life takes a village. I mean, I say it over and over, but I really mean a village, a tribe, call it what you want, but we are social beings. We are animals that need connection and socialization at the end of the day. And I mean, it is a brilliant feeling when you find people that you are aligned with and that you can connect with and that you don't feel judged by, because judgment is such a shaming, like just terrible spiral. Exactly. And so, yeah, I think that the community aspect, and I have to say, I've done programs in the past where they've had these community aspects, and I've been very kind of scared and uncomfortable to be that transparent and to be that open. And I've learned over time that there's a real freedom that comes with it. And there's a real, you know, when you find the right community for you, there's an acceptance that is just, it's like it's freedom. It's the best feeling. So, you know.
No, I was going to say it is. And like, honestly, that's the feeling that we think we're going to get with the food stuff. And it's not. Like, you get it from here, and the more you plug your plug into that outlet, it's like what happened with me with yoga. It's like you're just going to, you know, and then of course the urge is going to hit, but like you're going to have that verified resourcefulness that you've created through community and through connection. It's going to feel easier to not give into that urge, not because you have a meal plan, but because you have connection, you know, and that's the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes. It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, we are at the end. It's gone so fast. I could keep talking to you forever. It's been such a great conversation. Let me give a little bit of where people can find you. So Alana has an amazing Instagram account that is called Be Well by AK, and also a website, bewellbyak.com. And this is where our audience can go to find you. They can find your sober eating mentorship and lots of really great content.
Yeah, and I have a podcast as well called Emotional Eating Unwrapped. So if you guys want to hear more about deep dives into a lot of this stuff, I do a lot of solos. So the podcast is pretty much a solo podcast. So if you like that, head on over.
Fantastic. I will have all of this in the show notes for the audience. It's easy clicks to get to her content. And thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful chat with you. I've loved it.
Thank you so much, Spencer. I loved it too. Always love these types of conversations. So happy to be here. Happy to come back anytime.
Fantastic. We'll do that. We will.
Thanks for sharing your time with me today. If something in this episode resonated with you, don't just sit with it. Take action. Comment below, subscribe to our channel, or share it so more women can find conversations like these. You can sign up for the Harrington newsletter to stay up to date on everything we're building. And if there's a free cheat sheet connected to this episode, visit theharrychin.com to download. Life takes a village. Thanks for being a part of ours. See you soon.